I am the founder of the bike company and an app called Recruitment. So I have a background in hospitality. I worked for a hotel management company for almost 10 years. Really found a love of it at a young age. And really, I like to think that I'm still working in hospitality. So what I do is try to find ways from an entrepreneurial background and spirit to bring hospitality into other areas of my life and other industries.
What does that mean? Because I've seen some of the things you talk about where it's like the power of hospitality and trying to kind of merge that with other things. What is that? And I'll let you explain it. All right, Catarina, I wanted to say thanks again for taking time to chat with us today, and wanted to start just by letting you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be on and to get a chance to talk to you. So I am the founder of the bike company and an app called Recruitment. So I have a background in hospitality. I worked for a hotel management company for almost 10 years. Really found a love of it at a young age. And really, I like to think that I'm still working in hospitality. So what I do is try to find ways from an entrepreneurial background and spirit to bring hospitality into other areas of my life and other industries.
What does that mean? Because I've seen some of the things you talk about where it's like the power of hospitality and trying to kind of merge that with other things. What is that? And I'll let you explain it.
Absolutely. So hospitality is obviously a form of customer service. And I think at some point there was this parting of the Red Sea of saying that customer service is on one end and hospitality is a completely different entity. And really it's one and the same. I think that hospitality is really just working with people. It's being human, it's bedside manner, right? So that's something that's in every industry. Every job, every interaction that you have, working or not working, there's a little bit of hospitality there. If you invite someone over to your home, you're being hospitable. If you go to someone's home, how you act in that home is your own hospitality. So in everything that we do, hospitality plays a hand, and this term sort of died off at some point and people forgot about it, and it's really only associated with hotels and maybe restaurants and travel. And then COVID came along and really took a sledgehammer to the industry. So people have forgotten that hospitality even exists. So I'm trying to keep that in any business venture that I do. And I'm trying to work with companies as well, and any chance that I get to remind them how to infiltrate hospitality, which is really something they're doing. They're just forgetting that that's part of their job.
Was it working at because you worked at some of the bigger hospitality players, is it things that you learned there that kind of struck a chord with you and said, oh, every business should incorporate this? Or is it just the idea of kind of like you said, dealing with people? Was it something specific about working there?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think when when you find your passion and what your calling is, and so many things hit you over the head to remind you, hey, this is what you like to do, this is what you should be doing, this is what you enjoy. You find in then those opportunities where you're working in it to sort of better that. I guess what I mean by that is it was something that I knew and noticed prior to working for the company. But then when I was working for the company, being that it was something that was in the back of my mind, I was able to, re-infiltrate and sort of reinforce in my own mind that, like, hey, yeah, this is something that all companies need to make sure they're doing. This isn't just separate to the sector of hotels, and to some hospitality, travel, and boutiques and whatnot. This is every industry. This is when you go to a car dealership and that car salesman experience, right? If that could be tweaked a little bit, people may be more comfortable in those instances. When you go to a furniture store, sometimes, depending on who walks in, you may be treated differently if they think you're actually going to go ahead and make purchases. So things like that I experienced. I was raised by a single mom, so I experienced that we could be treated differently, right? So for me, it's been something always in my life, but definitely working in the hotels just reinforced for me that this was something that every industry needed.
Were you going into the jobs at the hotels thinking that it was just a job, or because this is kind of a leading question because I've been on this big thing about like finding your passion. So I'm always interested when other people talk about it as well. But was that just a job for you, just like a stepping stone, and you always had this thing in the back of your head that you wanted to do entrepreneurship, or what was that experience like?
It was not just a job to me. If you talk to anybody that I worked with, they'll think that I was Disney and rainbows and sunshines. And, I'd argue with people of the fact that if you're not enjoying this a little bit, if you're not having a little fun, you're in the wrong industry. Because people from the outside could say, oh, they just plan parties all day. And oh, it's just fun. Like there can't be any stress in hospitality. Let me tell you, there's stress in hospitality. So if you don't wake up the next day excited to get beaten up, then there's no way that it's just a job to you, right? So for me, I could get beat up multiple times, but the next day I was like, let's do it again, right? I mean, I cried, one of my first jobs, I cried over a $20 tip. Someone was so mean to me and then they felt bad and then I cried about it. So it's stories like that that's like, this was a passion for me. This had nothing to do with just being a job. I just knew I wanted to help people. So for me, hospitality made sense. The entrepreneurial aspect came at a later time that I realized, wait, there's so many other ways I can help people, not just in hotels. Hotels gives me the opportunity to work with people and to meet people and to help people because they're coming to you for help in a sense, right? Every interaction, they need something. But there are other ways where I can find that and do that. And that's where the entrepreneurial aspect came.
That giddiness to do your job, though, that wasn't because of the job specifically. Do you think that was something inside you, or was it truly just because of the job you were working in? Or would you have been that way no matter what you were doing?
I think I would have been that way no matter what I was doing, but I think I would have been ill-used in other industries. I think I would have been missing something. I think I would have burned out maybe faster or in general. So it definitely was something in me. I young age watched Gilmore Girls, watched The Wedding Planner. That was the spark to be, hey, hospitality is what I want to do. But then whenever I would stay in hotels with family members, not that it was that often, but when I was the kid who was kind of wandering off, focused on the design and the customer service. And, at 10, 12 years old, families thinking, that's what she cares about. She's looking at, the artwork that they have and how the hotel's set up and the amenities that they have. So clearly there was something in me that was interested in that. But I just think that interest in helping people was something that I had. Again, the way that I was raised and just family dynamic, I just always had this need and interest in helping others. Sounds cheesy, but it was just something I think in me. So I think that it was always going to be kind of there no matter where I was working.
Well, I think part of that, like finding your passion, is all about, I mean, for most people, it's about helping others, right? I mean, there's a lot of joy that comes from doing something for somebody else. But when we're thinking about identifying a passion, do you think that you always knew that it was there, or like what helped you along the way say, no, this is what I'm supposed to do?
I think that's a great question. It's hard to sort of dissect. I think it was baby steps. It's little things here and there. I was very fortunate to have other people in my life help me realize what my passion was coming from. Me talking out loud and saying these things I'm excited about. I remember there was this book that explained college majors, right? And I don't know if there's still books out there like this, but now you can just Google it, right? But there was a book that was like, here's all the college majors and here's details on what it is and why you would like this and what kind of jobs you could have. And I was between professional dancer and hospitality. And only professional dancer because of the fact that I danced all my life. So that's all that I knew, right? So at the time when I was looking, I was like, all right, here's the two paths. Moments like that. I went to Penn State, and being in the classes and actually enjoying my classes and talking to my friends who were miserable going to their classes. And I was like, well, I actually like my classes. They're kind of cool, right? You get the pushback of like, well, your classes are easy. Our classes are more intense. Yours. And I was like, all right, well, cool, whatever. And then working in hotels, working with Hershey, having these bits and pieces where I was hesitant. I remember my first summer home from college, I didn't want to work in a hotel, right? Which sounds crazy. I was like, I want to work at like just like a retail store. I want to do what all my friends are doing. I want to just work at the mall. And it was my mom at the time that was like, if you are interested in this, you should start working in it as soon as you can to ensure that you actually like this. And it was always those sort of fearful moments of like, but what if I don't? What if this whole time I've been thinking I would like this, but I don't actually like it? And every time I took an opportunity that I actually worked in the field, it just further reinforced that I did like it. So it was bits and pieces. It was definitely, cookie crumbs along the way. And then in my corporate role, as I continue to progress in that role, confidence building was big for me. So the more opportunities I had to build my confidence and actually see that I could make it through any scenario thrown my way, and sort of reap the benefits and have that immediate gratification that you don't really get in other industries. I think that is what made me realize, okay, I definitely like this. It's not just the helping people, it's helping people in this way that I get to help them.
You touched on two really cool things there, and the more recent one was, building your confidence. And it's like, there's this idea that, when you have something that you want to do, but you feel that pressure or like that fear to do it. I like, I like to think of it as like, the bigger that pressure is, like the more you should probably step into it. Right. Cause there's something there. There's something that is, there's a reason for it. But then you said, building your confidence through that corporate role. It's not always like huge leaps of faith or huge things that can build our confidence, right? It's kind of like stacking those little things up. How do you talk to other people that maybe didn't have people in their life like you did that was supportive of that? How do you talk to people about finding their passion? Because I feel like I run into people all the time that it's like, oh, I think I want to do this, or I think I want to do that, or they're miserable in their job. How do you start to have that conversation with people that, maybe haven't had that before?
I would start with something that I actually recently heard. So I recently heard someone say that when you aren't sure what to do, look to what you do when you're procrastinating, basically. So what do you find yourself doing when you're not, when you're supposed to be doing something else, in a sense? And some people joked and said, well, laying in my bed and watching TikToks isn't going to necessarily count as a job,
Right.
right? But if your, interest is you're looking up this or that and you're finding yourself down this rabbit hole of certain videos you like to watch or certain things you like to look up, really lean into it. And prior to me hearing that, I would say to people, what do you enjoy doing? What genuinely brings you joy? And that could start with people saying, I like my morning coffee, I like going to the gym, and I like going for walks. Okay, that's fine. That's what you're thinking so far. When you're doing those things, what is it specifically that you enjoy doing? Well, I like that, I see results from what I'm doing at the gym. I like when I'm on my walks that there's calm, there's quiet, I have scenery, I like taking pictures. Oh, let's hold up there. Okay, so there's two kind of things that are kind of combining there. You like taking pictures and you like seeing results. Could there be something possibly there in photography that you could take photos and then you see those results in the shots that you're taking? It's stuff like that where maybe that's not that easy, but easily enough when you start having those conversations, people don't usually sit around the dinner table and talk about what they like to do. They're usually talking about what they did during the day, what struggles they had. Someone cut them off. Someone did a Jersey sweep. They had to get gas and, there was a line up the wazoo, all these things, right? You're talking about the issues in the day, but 9 times out of 10, you're not saying, hey, what do you like to do? What was enjoyable about today? And what can you bring from today into every single day? So really, to answer your question, it's talking about it. It's forcing them to start talking about it. And it may not happen in the first conversation, but by the third, fourth conversation, you'll start to pull out these little breadcrumbs again, these cookie crumbs, where you can piece it together and realize, wait, there could be a hobby here that could turn into a profession. And not to mention that if there's something you want to do or someone you want to be, start being that person. Start finding ways to be that person, start reading about that, start researching about that, start dressing for the job you want, in a sense, versus what you're currently doing, and you'll get there.
Well, I think that I think you're 100% correct. And it's funny how, like, it's those subtle things that, that you're just thinking about, or just, that you actually enjoy, and then making those connections to how to make a career out of it.
Right.
When we think about, because you were happy in your career, what was the impetus for you to say, I'm going to go out on my own and do this? I mean, you mentioned that it was helping people, but was there a specific event or something that happened that said, okay, now's the time I'm going to make that jump?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2018, I had been 2 years out of college, and I was just finding that my health was taking a toll. I always joke that they tell you about your freshman 15, but they don't tell you about your post-college 15. I was on the road all the time. I was not taking care of myself. I was getting a venti Starbucks in the morning, and this is back when Starbucks was still open until 10. Now with COVID, things are different at times, but I was getting another one at 10 to drive home. So definitely not sustainable. I really wasn't eating. I was going home and I was just vegging out. Not the ideal setup. And for me, I needed to find snacks that I could eat during the day to keep me nourished, but not, unhealthy snacks. I was the kind of person where this company took a chance on me. I wanted to prove myself. I didn't want to stop to get lunch. I was going through the McDonald's drive-through instead. Quick. I could still be on calls. So I took about 2 years finding snacks that I enjoyed, that were still delicious, that were easy for me to be eating on the go. So I wasn't worried about getting something on my blazer, this or that. And then by 2020, the start of 2020, I had just had a really rough day at work. It was just one of those days where you just need a treat. And my treat was Pizza Hut. That I was sitting in the Pizza Hut parking lot waiting for my order to go and pick it up. And I was like, you know what? Today's the day I'm starting it. I'm going to start the Instagram post. I'm going to make these boxes. So for me, that was sort of the moment that I was like, I can't be the only person who's out there struggling with their health, taking care of themselves. They're on the go. And I thought people like myself driving around all day, in a corporate position, people traveling, business travelers, moms worried about healthy snacks for their kids, those are going to be my demographics. And then that was in January. So 3 months later after starting it, or 2 months later, COVID hit. And I thought to myself, well, great, this is a great time to start a company. I tell everybody I started in 2020 and they're like, oh yeah, you started because of COVID. And I was like, no, I started before COVID. I'm the idiot who's like,
Right.
oh yeah, let's start it now. And then it's like, oh good, I started a company. This is perfect timing. So my goal at that point, once I had sort of that aha leading up to COVID, was to leave my company. At around 2018, there were conversations I had with my boss on the fact that I'm starting to have kind of these spidey senses of doing something on my own. So it was sort of a build up to that. But then when COVID hit, I did stay on board because we were a company of almost 700 employees. And then we went down to about 35 at one point. So, they had done so much for me. I wanted to do as much as I could for the company. We had to close most of our locations, everything I could do, stayed on board. And then fast forward 3 years, I ultimately left at the end of 2022. So long time coming, but that's where the spark happened to really kind of shift my mindset of wanting to do something else.
So now that you're 10 months into doing this, full time, what are some of the things that have happened or maybe you're thinking about that you didn't expect whenever you were going to go out on your own?
I would say the biggest thing was that the faucet would just turn back on. And what I mean by that is the demographics that I thought were going to my demographics weren't my demographics, because by the time I was really kicking into gear, the people that were ordering from us were people who were concerned to go to the grocery store themselves.
Mhm.
People concerned about their elders going to not being able to go to the grocery store and them not being able to get groceries to them potentially. So they were ordering from us, right? Never did I think that I was going to have an elder demographic, because I'm thinking we're doing healthy, fun, cool snacks. Not really someone I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking more of a younger generation, in all honesty. And the third was new moms that were nursing, and they were incredibly that much more concerned about healthcare because of what was going on in the world. So definitely a big shift. We really did very well summer of COVID of 2020, right? I had to pull back a lot because at that point it was really just me. I had help from family and friends, but I couldn't sustainably do this. I mean, in the hotel world too, though we took a big hit that summer for New Jersey, at least specifically by the shore, we were cranking. It was crazy. So I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. I really cut back. I cut back with marketing, I cut back with a lot of things. And I thought, whenever I can just turn it back on, I'll have that same reaction. That's obviously naive. No, looking back, of course, that's a different time frame. There was the demographic I had was so specific to what was going on in the world, right? I had no clue what the response would be in a normal year, not COVID related. So I was, doing work. We had orders here and there. It was respectable. It was something that I could be doing as a side hustle, is what everyone's saying now, while I was working. It was manageable, having teams in place, having a virtual assistant, things like that. The minute I left, I was like, all right, guns a blazing, let's go for it. And it didn't change immediately, right? It took time. It took months to get now more into a corporate sector, doing employee appreciation, doing things with conferences, working with gyms, trying to get more into the airport sector, taking time where I just thought the minute I start doing more marketing again, we're going to be inundated again, but now I'm ready. So it was really that naive moment for a new entrepreneur to be like, yeah, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what's going on in the world, and you can work as hard as you want, but sometimes it really just depends on, what's going on.
Well, I think sometimes we get lost in the idea of how fast something's going to happen,
Right.
like that it's going to explode and I mean, for some people it does, but there's something about just enjoying the process and that scaling up rather than just, oh, I'm immediately, it's a multi-million dollar business. It's like, doesn't always happen
Absolutely.
that way.
Yeah. Organic growth is definitely beneficial, and creating that solid foundation, I definitely think is more beneficial than that immediate. But again, it's to each his own. It happens differently for everyone, like you said.
Yeah. But yeah. I think it's just, and I'm big on this too, is like, I think everybody in the world we live in, and the information from social media is like that everyone should just do their own business, or, be a solopreneur, do it's like, and it's, I just like to point out, and that's why I asked you about the challenges that maybe, you were already doing it, but then when you went full time, it's like, there's still unexpected things. And it's not always, the rainbows and sunshine that people make it out to be.
Absolutely, 1,000%. There are many a days where I'm thinking to myself, "What the heck?"
Right.
Um, and it's like you said, it gets glamorized of this. That's the lifestyle, and it's not for everybody. And I don't know if I'll always be doing it like this. I'd be happy to work again with other hotels, the hotel company, and do other things. I think you have to be open to constantly be flexible to what you want to be doing, because you never know, and you should follow passion wherever that may be. Passion doesn't just mean you have a passion, now go out and do it on your own. Passion could mean doing it with a company, and just kind of have to go with the flow, go with life as it throws at you.
No, that's a great point. And that I want to ask about, when we talk about this passion, I think about it like, it's really hard to transfer that, right, to like our teams. What how do you talk to people, maybe like small business owners, about, getting teams motivated when, well, I'm passionate about this? Because some people have that sense of like, why wouldn't everybody just want to love this as much as I do? You know what I mean? So how do you get people to think about that maybe in a different way?
Absolutely. I personally have said this until I've been blue in the face, that if you explain to your employees why you started what you're doing, and you pull back the curtain and you tell them about the hardships, and you really explain how this business came to be wherever it's at. So if it's day one of the business, explain the first day. If it's day, 1002, explain all those days. And you don't have to go into crazy detail, but there's this misconception that once you've made it and you have a company, you have employees, you have to be stoic in a sense and be like,
Mm.
we did it, we made it. I'm the CEO. We're going to talk about the future, and they never talk about the past, and that can create a very big divide between you and your employees because they see you as someone not human like they are, right? They forget they're putting their pants on the same way. They forget that this person had a dream, started something, however that looked like, whether it was family business, whether they came on board from another company, whatever that is. But pulling back the curtain and really explaining, hey, this is why we started it. This is what we've come to. These are the trials and tribulations. You bring that person into the almost into the fold. They're now part of this piece. They're a part of the history of the company, and they're interested in what the past was. Some people could say it's drinking the Kool-Aid, but look at companies like Disney, look at companies like Apple. When you have these companies that have these autobiographies out there, or they have these videos, these movies, I'm a geek and I love to watch films, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, on the stories of how someone came to be,